January 1st, 1959. Fidel Castro and his communist troops forced General Batista, the U.S.-backed Cuban dictator, into exile. Castro seizes all assets and property, including those of particular interest to the United States. With the communist regime only 90 miles from the coast of Florida, President Eisenhower authorizes the CIA to begin Operation Bumpy Road, the overthrow of Fidel Castro. Among other missions was covertly training Cuban exiles to invade the island of the city of Trinidad. Their invasion, backed by U.S. military air and naval power, was believed to be enough cause for the Cuban people to revolt and overthrow Castro. The mission changed with the election of John F. Kennedy to the office of President of the United States. Wanting to have plausible deniability, Kennedy pulled the naval and air support, and not wanting civilian casualties, he changed the invasion site from Trinidad to Bahia de Cochinos, or the Bay of Pigs. The Cuban exiles would be flying the B-26 medium bombers to attack communist forces in airfields. There was only one military group in the United States that still flew the B-26, the 117th Alabama Air National Guard. The CIA recruited members of the unit for its top-secret mission. The U.S. would deny any knowledge of them should they be caught, and even their families didn't know where they were going. The 1,500 members of the Brigada 2506 stormed the beaches at the Bay of Pigs. They were met by nearly 100,000 communist forces. Castro had imprisoned people he believed would support the invasion during the week, to ensure they could not support the attack that he knew was imminent. The brigade quickly started running out of supplies. The B-26 crews did significant damage to the Castro Air Force, but there were still planes left that attacked the troops on the ground. The exiled fighters and CIA advisors in the fight begged for naval and air support from the United States that never came. Faced with exhausted air crews and a desperate situation on the ground at the Bay of Pigs, 8 of the Alabama Guardsmen stepped forward to fly support missions that day, with a dire warning. Should they be captured, the U.S. would declare them mercenaries and disavow them. Despite this, the men flew off in the pre-dawn hours. During the battle, one B-26 was hit and crash-landed near the Australian sugar plantation, near the field headquarters of Castro himself. The 2 crewmen inside jumped out of the wreckage and began fighting. Armed with only pistols and grenades, they were quickly surrounded and killed. 114 of the Brigada 2506 were killed and nearly 1,200 taken prisoner. The Battle of the Bay of Pigs was over. One of those airmen killed that day was Leo Francis Baker. Leo was born the 24th of April 1926 in the small town of Morristown, Ohio, in Belmont County. He was born to John Baker and Teresa Emberley, both of Newfoundland, Canada. Shortly after his birth, his family moved to Detroit, then to Boston, Massachusetts, where he graduated high school and entered the military as a left gunner with the 39th Bomber Group and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. He later fought in Korea and then settled in Alabama and joined the 117th Alabama Air National Guard, and it was here that he was recruited by the CIA. At the time of his death, ensuring plausible deniability of American involvement, the government gave his wife a death certificate that said Leo had died in the Caribbean in an accidental drowning. Even the president wasn't informed of the pilot deaths until 2 years later. In 1977, the CIA declassified a number of documents that showed the airmen had in fact died in Cuba, and it wasn't until 1997 before the CIA confirmed the details of their mission. Despite attempts to identify and bring the remains of Leo home, they remain in an unmarked common grave in Cristobal Colon Cemetery of Havana. At CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, there is a wall in the lobby known as the Memorial Wall. On it are 108 stars, each being carved when an employee dies in the line of service. The Book of Honor sits below the stars. Inside, it shows the stars arranged by the year of death, and when possible lists the names of employees who died in CIA service alongside them. In 1997, the first star for the year 1961 had a name printed beside it: Leo F. Baker, a hero from the small town of Morristown, Ohio.